Hello, hello, and welcome to the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast, brought to you as always by InsideThePenguins.com. I'm your host, Nick Brlansky, joined as always by Nick Horwat. And, we said it going away from the episode on Thursday. We would like to wake up Monday morning, stretch a little bit, and get ready to record a podcast for a Pittsburgh Penguins team that won 3 straight games. And here we are, a couple days later. The Penguins went undefeated 3-0 on their road trip, finishing it off with a big win in Chicago for the first time since 2009. Not only was it important for that reason, not only was it an important night in Chicago because I guess Marion Hossa is good enough to have his jersey retired there, and we won't get into that. But it was also more important for Penguins fans because Evgeni Ma1Kin hits his 1,000th NHL game. He's the second Penguins player to ever accomplish that feat, all with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He is the 8th Russian-born player to ever accomplish that feat. There are 3 other Russian-born players that used to play for the Penguins on that list, Horwat. Can you name those 3 Russian former Penguins
that have played
1,000 games?
Maybe I should stop cheating. Sergei Gonchar.
Yeah, that would be one of them.
Because you're talking about it, and I'm like, I should probably pull up numbers because I got the stat sheet here, and that's all over it. Okay, that's the only one I saw. So there's 2 more?
There are 2 more former Penguins that are Russian and also played 1,000 NHL games. Regular season.
Did Alexei Kovalev play 1,000 games? He had to have.
He did. Yep, that is number 2. And then do you remember the third and final former Penguin that is a Russian that played also 1,000 games?
It's just hard to remember Russian Penguins at this point.
Yeah. There's not that many, to be completely honest.
No, there's not. There's those 3. I got nothing. What's the last one? Without me cheating.
The last one, he only played for the Penguins for 1 season. That is Sergei Zubov. Played 1,000 games. Played in 1 year for the Pittsburgh Penguins. If I'm not mistaken, and don't quote me on this, I believe it was the 1995-96 team that ended up going to the Eastern Conference Finals and losing to the Florida Panthers. But yeah, those are the 3 other former Penguins on the list of Russian-born players to play 1,000 games. Nice little tidbit there, but the night was really about Evgeni Malkin, and if you had the Evgeni Malkin anytime goal scorer prop, then you were a winner last night because Malkin tapped in 1 goal, gave the Penguins a 2-0 lead at the point. But if you look at his entire career, 452 goals, 714 assists, 1,166 points, 1,022 penalty minutes. He's climbing that list very, very quickly, chasing down Kevin Stevens. And he also has 78 game-winning goals for the Pittsburgh Penguins, which is second in franchise history, only behind Sidney Crosby, who got the game-winning goal on Sunday evening in Chicago. His first, we'll talk about Crosby in a little bit, but he currently leads Evgeni Malkin by 2 game-winning goals. Malkin tied with Jágr for second.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's a close race, actually. Crosby only recently passed Jágr with that mark, and Malkin is right on his tail. Mm-hmm. That is the one stat that those 2 will 100% lead this franchise in when it's all said and done. Whereas, and games played, I guess. Mm-hmm. We know goals, assists, and points are going to be held by Mario. There's just nothing we can do about it. But hey, having the games played mark and game-winning goals, showing how clutch you are and how you can come up right big in the right moments. That's a huge thing. And also, Jake Guentzel with 26 is going to quickly climb that list as well. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, I want to just channel my inner Lee Corso and say, not so fast, Horwat, because games played, Kris Letang's not too far off right now. He's about 45 games behind Evgeni Malkin. Letang has a 6-year deal. Malkin has a 4. So maybe it's not Crosby Malkin who finished 1-2 in Penguins games played.
The 6-year deal is going to pop into that. He's at 959 right now. He's going to hit his 1,000th game. I think they're channeling around without really looking into it, February or March.
Yeah, that's what they said on the broadcast a lot last night. So I'm going to go with them. I think they might have done the math. I don't know.
They may have looked into it. Yeah. So with this, there's another celebration to be had this year. I don't know how you're going to make a 1K out of just throw the 1 in front of his name. There, you figured it out. Anyway, Yeah, there's going to be a lot of big moments like this year. Still, Kris Letang has to get it, and Evgeni Malkin just this legacy. It's not everyone hits 1,000 games. Everyone was echoing that statement this entire week, and it's impressive that he did it, given everything he went through from draft day on.
Yeah,
not just recent injuries, from draft day on. It's impressive that he was able to accomplish this.
So before we move on from Gino, I do want to ask you this question, Horwat, because we talked about it with Jesse Marshall. I talked about it with Doug Gladkey last Wednesday on Penguins Lunch. Check out both of those episodes. Great interviews from Tip of the Ice-Burgh and Penguins Lunch. I want to ask you this, and I know we've heard all of it. We saw most of the highlights on Sunday night. What is your favorite Evgeni Malkin moment?
There's so many good ones. There's so many just funny off-ice ones that you always come up with too. It's not just the spinorama goal in the Eastern Conference Finals in 2009. It's not just that slap shot breakaway against the Flyers. It's not just burrowing through people. There's so many different things off the ice that are just so funny. So I'm gonna stick with that Flyer goal just because that's impressive for an on-ice moment. But Jesse Marshall tweeted the picture of Malkin playing trumpet with what everybody assumed was Sergei Gonchar's daughter. And then just one of the weirdest moments that just randomly popped into my head was whenever Malkin said hi to somebody's cat during the season ticket delivery. And the cat's just sitting there. It's just dumb things like that. Or whenever Pascal Dupuis walking into the locker room and says hi to the boys, but F you, Gino. So small things, off-ice things that honestly make him such a different player from any other superstar in the league.
Yeah, you could look at the prank wars with Phil Kessel. You could look at him coming up behind James Neal in those post-game press conferences and celebrating. Evgeni Malkin is as much of a personality as he is a hockey player. And Pittsburgh Penguins fans, even though half the fan base kind of wanted to shuffle him out of here 5 years ago, I think most of them are realizing how much of a generational talent he is as well. He doesn't get the shine that Crosby gets because good Canadian boy from Nova Scotia always gets the number one shine. Plus, he was the number one draft pick. He was the next phenom. But Evgeni Malkin has been right up there with Sidney Crosby. And there have been years that in this run, everybody talks about, 16 straight postseasons for the Pittsburgh Penguins. That doesn't happen without Evgeni Malkin in the early 2010s. He was an animal. There's a reason he was the MVP. And like you said, on the ice, off the ice, it can date back to the first time him and Crosby walked out on the ice together. 3 years Super League. Evgeni Malkin is that type of personality. And Sid said it best when you were talking to him last week. He said, you just love having guys like that on the team. But let's talk about Sidney Crosby because we kind of went after him a little bit on Thursday's episode because his line hadn't been performing. He hadn't been performing. It wasn't looking good. Even though the Penguins are starting to get things in the right direction, a lot of that reason was because of Evgeni Malkin, was because of Crosby. The one chance that he produced, he was able to score on it. But he went just ballistic on this 3-game road trip. 10 points in 3 games, 3 goals, 7 assists. He had 2 4-point outings in Minnesota and Chicago. What did you think of Crosby coming out and basically saying, hey, anybody that said anything bad about me last week because I had a rough couple of games, you can sit the F down.
Good. I'm glad he did it. Good. That's what I think of it. This is what he's supposed to be doing. He's supposed to be taking games over like this. Despite being 35, he's playing like he's in his 20s again. He's playing that impressive style of hockey that doesn't matter that the Penguins are still kind of pulling themselves out of the depths of the Metro. He's making sure that it's getting done any way possible. In hindsight, there's really no reason why we should have won Chicago. We haven't won since 2009. We blew a 3-goal lead, despite us still kind of looking decent and somehow blowing the lead. I don't know. I thought we played a good game in Chicago. That's just me.
Yeah.
But there was something about that goal in Chicago that said he's not letting this happen. He's not letting this game get out of hand. Obviously, he buries the game winner and just shows that he still has. It was also the second half of a back-to-back. Like, there was really no reason for us to win that game. That's kind of part of the reason why we said, if anything, we would have been happy with 4 points maybe 5. We would have been ecstatic about 6. Now here we are, ecstatic about 6 whole points from a, albeit not terrible, a tough 3-game road trip.
Yeah.
I mean, the Wild are the Wild. They're pretty good.
Listen, I don't care. I don't care who the 3 teams are. You play 3 games in 4 days, it's going to be tough. And they're all on the road, especially.
All on the road, all with travel. Like I said, the Wild are the Wild. I mean, Jarry didn't look phenomenal, but got the job done. The Penguins got the job done. And then just a goaltending battle in Winnipeg that came down to which goalie blinks first, and it was Connor. So there's that. Jarry somehow out-dueling Connor Hellebuck and proving that he seems to be all the way back now. Minnesota be damned. And then Chicago with Casey DeSmith in net. Also, our backup was in net. We should not have won that game. Yeah, I'm happy with it.
Well, and they gave up a 3-goal lead. Like, let's not forget, they were up 3-0 in the second period and gave up all 3 of those goals. You know, gave up that entire lead. And the other thing was Elvis Dumbledore Soderblom on the other side. I guess the scouting report was, let's shoot at 5-hole. Well, I think after the second opportunity, after the Bluger opportunity, let's stop trying to shoot at 5-hole. Yet 2 other grade A chances. Where do the Penguins go? Yeah, let's try to go between the wickets because he's been so open there before. No, you need to raise the puck and go high on this guy. That's how you scored your 3 goals. And then Crosby says, you know what? Screw going high, screw going 5-hole. I'm just going to deke him out of his jockstrap.
Rebounds, but yes.
Yeah.
I mean, he collected his own rebound. Like I said, he made sure he wasn't losing that game. Also, the Penguins getting goalied by a young, no-name netminder, where I've never heard that one before.
Yeah, move along here. That's every other game.
Tack him to the list.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the last one I can remember is Spencer Martin, who's actually putting together a good season. So I guess we shouldn't keep talking shit on Spencer Martin.
We're the one that kicked it off. It's fine.
Yeah, a month after the fact. But no, like, that is a massive goal, not only for Sidney Crosby, not only for the Pittsburgh Penguins, but, you know, just for, I don't even know, like, the fact that that's his first goal ever in Chicago. I know it was his 6th or 7th game. And Jeff Taylor of Fly Penguins Fly was talking to me. He's like, that's hard to believe. Like, and I was like, yeah, well, it says only his 7th game. He's like, yeah, but still, like, that's Sidney Crosby. He's not going to score 1 goal. It's almost like when you got to, was it 2016 and he had never scored in the Stanley Cup Finals? Like, he had 2 series. It's like, there was 2 7-game series. It's hard to believe. Or I think it might have been the 2009 Finals, because I don't think he scored in the 2008 one. I don't remember. But
it's a weird stat like that you're shocked.
Yeah,
it's gone on that long.
It's like, this guy has done everything. How did he not at the very least pick this up? But I guess, you know, if you want to pick a time to score your first ever goal in Chicago, you picked a pretty good time to do it.
Do you know the last stadium he has not scored in? I'm sure you heard it on the broadcast.
I did. Right now, I'm drawing a blank. He hasn't scored in the new UBS Arena for the New York Islanders, but he also has not scored in Dallas.
Yeah, I was like, it's just another airline. It's American. Is it still American Airlines down there?
It is. Yeah, American Airlines Center or Arena. I don't remember.
Don't know, but if your arena is named after a plane, Crosby's not scoring there.
Well, and historically, the Dallas Stars are a defensive hockey team. If you're going to beat them, you're going to beat them 1 or 2-0. So I guess that makes sense. But with the Chicago Blackhawks, it's never made sense, man.
House of Horrors. We've been talking about this for years. They've dominated us. As the Penguins, we always talk 16 straight postseason appearances, 3 Stanley Cups, 4 appearances, just consistently winning, always being a winning team. The Blackhawks have always had our number.
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
To the point where, yeah, CM Punk is still mad about 92, but at least he's had regular season success against us since 2009. Even whenever the Blackhawks were bad in some of those years in between their cup wins, just dominated us. And I didn't realize that it's been over a decade since we won there. I thought we won there last year because we beat them in general for the first time since, I think, 2011. I don't know. Dumb things. They just always play well against us. It helps that we only play them twice, and Patrick Kane seems to eat us alive no matter what. So, yeah, there's that.
Yeah. But
don't know where I was really going with that. Just
a funny little tidbit that was said on the broadcast last night. Never forget the 10-1 Antti Niemi just horrible game, second game of the season. That was Steve Mears' first game calling a Pittsburgh Penguins game.
Was it his first?
Oh, it was his first. Because the second game of the season, but the first game was national. I think it was on NBC Sports or something that year.
It had to be because it was banner raising night. That was
Washington.
like the day after the back-to-back cup. Yeah. Oh.
Yep. Yeah. Never forget that. But listen, the long regional nightmare is over, as I stated on my Twitter last night. The Penguins have finally won a game in Chicago, and honestly, they should have. They should have beaten that team. There's no way you should be losing games to that Chicago Blackhawks team, especially without, Seth Jones, Tyler Johnson. I know they don't have very many star players. I know they still have Kane and Taves and Andreas Athanasiou is a nice player. Yeah. Max Domi, I guess, has some talent. I saw last night why he's been passed around like the Thanksgiving turkey. But we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Kris Letang, Brock McGinn, Tristan Jarry, and just overall keep talking about the Pittsburgh Penguins and their current success. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast, brought to you as always by InsideThePenguins.com. Penguins now on a 3-game heater. If you love good road trips, then you're going to love what you saw in the highlights from the Pittsburgh Penguins over the last 3 games. Think about the fact that they scored, 6 points or 6 goals in Minnesota on Thursday. They scored 3 in Winnipeg against a really hot goaltender in Connor Hellebuyck, and then they scored 5 against a Chicago team that you should be scoring 5 against. But not only are the Penguins 3-0-0 on this road trip, but if you look back at the last 7, you remember the Penguins had lost 7 straight games. We're talking about a historic losing streak, and we said 5 of the next 7 games are on the road. It's not going to be an easy stretch. This could get a lot worse before it gets better. Well, the Penguins answered the bell. In that stretch, it is now over 5-1-1 in those games. Only regulation loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs at home last Tuesday. They're looking good, Horwat. And you know what? A big issue was in some of those games, you still had Kris Letang that was struggling to succeed. Not going to say he's all the way back. We're going to talk about Tristan Jarry and whether or not he's all the way back a little later in this segment. But with Kris Letang, he's starting to become volatile, which, listen, he's always been volatile in his career. But over this last stretch, he was consistently bad. So volatile is an improvement.
Yeah, it's a step in the right direction. We brought Kris Letang back. He was the one, if we had to bring one back, it was going to be Kris Letang. Between him and Evgeni Malkin, it was going to be Kris Letang. His position is harder to replace. He looks like, to be honest, the better player at the moment. He looked like the better player over the summer, just still putting up 20-some minutes a night, not looking gassed ever, and just being a consistent force. He was coming off of a career year, whereas Malkin you're looking at and saying he's coming off of a ton of injuries, slowing down, getting older, this, that, the other. Letang looked like the better player. Now here we were, multiple games into the season, and Evgeni Malkin looked like the smart choice, didn't he? And Kris Letang, like you said, now that he's looking volatile, it's the step in the right direction.
Yeah.
What happened here? I mean, he's getting back to it. He's obviously improving. But he was just bumbling around out there. There was no other way of putting it. It's not even that not even like you could pinpoint certain things he was doing wrong. When he was paired with Dumoulin, especially, they just looked like they didn't know how to play the sport. They looked like they were playing with their wrong hands. It just looked weird and bad.
Yeah.
That's why the only way I was able to describe it was they were just bumbling themselves.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing I'm going to say about Kris Letang's performance. Like, you look at his road trip, horrible against the Minnesota Wild. Absolutely horrendous. Really good performance against Winnipeg. Pretty good performance against Chicago. Still had his moments. Volatile, like I said. But I'm going to preach patience with Kris Letang. I know a lot of the fan base is getting very upset, very impatient, very, mad at Kris Letang from his performance. And I will say this. There was a stretch there where he was completely awful, and he needs to be better than that. But I will also say this. For a long time, he was anchored to Brian Dumoulin this season.
Yes.
And Dumoulin, he doesn't belong on that top pairing anymore. That era is over. So he was anchored to Brian Dumoulin. You put Marcus Pettersson on that first pairing. Now, Pettersson has been the Penguins' best defensive defenseman. Between him, and honestly, I'll give P.O. Joseph some shine there. Between him and P.O. Joseph, those are the best defensemen the Penguins have had.
Mm-hmm.
You put Pettersson up there. It's going to take some time. Just similar, like, if you watch football, Cincinnati Bengals rebuilt their offensive line this offseason. And guess what? It got caved in week 1 by the Steelers. But as time goes along, you build that chemistry. They've never played together before.
Mm-hmm.
You build that chemistry. And now, listen, they're not the best offensive line in football, but top half, top 10, potentially. With Kris Letang, it's a similar thing with a Marcus Pettersson. He's never played with him before. You talk about Letang, Joseph, they played a little bit. Even that, it's going to take some time for Pettersson and for Letang to get on the same page. So I'm preaching patience. Now, do I think that his performance when it was all bad was acceptable? No, it's not. But if you see games like you did against Winnipeg, if you see games like you did against Chicago, and it's a microcosm of what I want to see. 2 out of 3 games, I need to see Kris Letang playing good hockey. Even if it's not a full game of good hockey, I need to see good hockey. We saw that, especially in Winnipeg. We saw that at times in Chicago. It needs to get better, and I believe it will get better, especially once his chemistry with Pettersson starts to grow like it has been already.
Yeah, this is something you're absolutely allowed to take your time on. He's still, regardless of good or bad play, he's still playing 23 minutes a night. So he's going to, again, it's like we always said with Letang. He plays the most amount of minutes. He's going to make the most amount of mistakes. You just kind of have to take the good with the bad. And that's part of it. That is part of the discussion of being patient with Kris Letang. He's going to have his downs. Let him, find his ups. Mm-hmm. Marcus Pettersson playing alongside of him, while it isn't ideal in the grand scheme of Penguins lineup, it looks good. And this is another thing too. Another reason why you're able to be patient with Kris Letang is we have a good defense now. They've all kind of molded together that, Marcus Pettersson is good enough to be an option on the first slide. Remember when we were discussing in the offseason, well, if you trade away Dumoulin, who's your option next to him? Pettersson? Yeah. We didn't want that either. Now we're sitting here like, okay, it's fine. We can do this. We can roll with this as long as Marcus Pettersson remains consistent, which we still need to learn. So I am still hopeful for the Pettersson thing. I just wouldn't be shocked if it all falls apart.
Yeah.
But then you're talking back down to P.O. Joseph, who's had a great season as well, and not saying he's been better than Ty Smith, but he's surprised more than after with that Ty Smith situation. He's surprised us. Dumoulin, I want to look into how he's done since being demoted. I have not, and because I don't understand analytics, I haven't really attempted. But, how many goals against has he been out there for recently? It hasn't been that many. He's a +4 now? +1, sorry. He's a +1 now. That's a step in the right direction for him. And then the whole right side, like you said, Kris Letang being patient with Jeff Petrie seems to be finding himself finally. Mm-hmm. And Jan Ruda's just steady. This defense is good, so you're allowed to be patient with your top guy. Again, you can't be that patient. You can't just keep waiting. We're at about the quarter mark of the year now. So you can't keep waiting too much longer. But this defense looks decent. It was kind of invisible during the losing streak. But I like the comparison of the offensive line for Cincinnati. They're all kind of new, and they all need to learn with each other. Couple of quick tweaks here and there. Boom, we're finding something.
Yeah. And with that, this is the time of the season that you need to start seeing progress. And I thought we saw that over this last 3-game road trip. Now, does that continue? That's going to be the important thing to keep an eye on. I'm not saying, listen, that this is a good defense. You need to give them a really long rope here. No, don't give them a long rope, because we saw them play putrid during that 7-game losing streak. But you need to start seeing progress. We've seen progression from Petrie. Pettersson and P.O. Joseph from the jump have been very good for the Penguins and have been getting better. Kris Letang, you're starting to see him progress a little bit. Brian Dumoulin, starting to see that progression. And listen, if Dumoulin can be good on the third pairing, not going to say that I don't want to see Ty Smith, because I'm still very, very excited to hopefully see Ty Smith play some hockey this year. But you might not need it.
Yeah.
You might not need it. Now, a trade might have to happen to facilitate some cap space and, a little bit of breathing room. but you might not need it on that back end.
No,
we're going to be talking about that all season.
You might not. He's an RFA, so you kind of have the ability to re-sign him next year if you need to. I was just curious if he had a contract in the next year and we could just, hey, you know what? What's 1 year?
Alex Nylander, part 2? Maybe.
You never know.
Maybe. We still have yet to see. Listen, Sam Lafferty played against the Penguins last night. Alex Nylander has not even worn a Penguins uniform for a non-preseason game.
Okay, but the Blackhawks are down bad.
They are, but still, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the Penguins can afford to be patient with these guys.
Yes.
And let them know that, hey, listen, we might have a spot for you. And I think Ty Smith is much better, in a much better position than Alex Nylander was. But still, there's a slight comparison there. Speaking of the Penguins' potential bottom 6, Brock McGinn, the Brockett Richard candidate, another goal, 5 goals in 7 games. Is he good?
He's the truth, man.
Is he good?
I don't know if he's good, but with 6 goals and 3 points for 9 points, 6 goals and 3 assists for 9 points in 19 games. I mean, most of that comes in the last handful. So that's
when he got off of a line with Ryan Poehling and Josh Archibald. And not to say that they have been horrible. They haven't been great at points. Josh Archibald, actually, I don't have a bad thing to say about him. But they're not the best scoring line. He goes up with Carter and Heinen, and now I know Carter and Heinen haven't really scored, but Brock McGinn is scoring enough for all 3 of them.
And it tells by the fact that he's not getting assists.
Yeah,
it's just goals, man.
Yeah,
like I said,
he's a trigger man.
Somehow, like it's not even that they're set up plays. I mean, we saw the one in Chicago, just on the rush, firing away, finding Twine. He's the truth. I don't know how else to put it. And he's taking advantage. It's not like he's playing a ton of minutes. He played under 13 minutes in a couple of the last few games and just 13 clean yesterday. Mm-hmm. Man, that's called taking advantage of your ice time because that third line's kind of abysmal without him. He's the only one really doing anything on that line. Yeah, Jeff Carter banked in an empty netter. Listen, I will cheer all day
he
for
took
Jake
it from
Guentzel.
Crosby, basically.
Sid gave it to him. But I will cheer till the dogs come home for a Jake Guentzel empty netter. Jeff Carter's, dude, there was an empty net. You should have scored that. It's a little different. But, I mean, that's also because we expect more from 38-year-old Jeff Carter now, don't we?
That sentence is an oxymoron, but yes.
Hey, but if someone's going to perform on this line, it may as well be him because, I mean, we may not have enjoyed the contract when it got here, and he still has 3 years left. Mm-hmm. But, hey, you know what? Always make the contract look good. And that's what he's doing for these couple of games. Now, if other people can wake up, I mean, Dan Heinen's playing like a $1 million player. It's not ideal.
Yeah, but he's always been streaky with the Penguins.
Yeah. And hey, for what it's worth, he played fine at the beginning of the year, enough to take Jake Guentzel's spot whenever he went down on the first line. So, and looked good in the first game for it.
Yeah.
But since then, it really hasn't been much. Yeah. Regardless, Brock McGinn seems to be the light of that third line because it hasn't been pretty otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, with Heinen, you just need that pendulum to swing back because if it doesn't swing back, that's when you have a $1 million player that is playing like a $1 million player. If he swings back, he goes back to being a good contract. But with Brock McGinn, and I won't harp on this too much, you have a really good story up about Kasperi Kapanen on InsideThePenguins.com about what the Penguins can do with Kasperi Kapanen. Hasn't played in basically 2 weeks. The only time he did was because there was an illness that forced him into the lineup. Even so, he played 7 minutes in that game. But Brock McGinn is the reason the Penguins have no rush to put Kasperi Kapanen back in the lineup. Because if Brock McGinn wasn't producing, then nobody on that third line would be producing, and you would need somebody to go there. You would need it. But the fact that Brock McGinn has not only played well, but he scored 5 goals in 7 games. Like, that is a goal scorer's pace. That's not going to continue. If it does, then I'm going to have a cardiac arrhythmia. But, like, Brock McGinn has been a revelation in the past 2 weeks. And if I would have told myself 2 weeks ago that I was going to be saying that today, I probably would have slapped myself across the face and said, wake up, because you're in a bad, weird, really weird dream. But, shout out to Brock McGinn, the Brock star, the Brockett Richard candidate, having a great stretch here. Hopefully it continues. But let's talk about Tristan Jarry really quickly before we head to our next segment. Saturday had a shutout. Looked great. Went head-to-head with one of the hottest goaltenders in the league. that is, of course, with performance and not with actual appearance. But seeing Jarry not only play that well on Saturday, but yeah, I don't know why I went
took
after
me a
Connor
minute.
Hellebuyck. I don't know why I went after Connor Hellebuyck like that. But no, the fact that he started both Thursday and Saturday, I think that's a good sign that he's getting healthier and getting over those physical issues.
Those physical issues that we know nothing about.
Yeah,
I mean,
we have no idea.
And I'm not doubting that he had physical issues or has physical issues.
No.
I'm just saying that, like, wow, you can tell that something was there by giving up damn near 6 goals a game. So, sure, the fact that he played 2 straight and was on the first half of the back-to-back and not the second, that's big stuff. And he outdueled a very good Connor Hellebuyck, and also the Jets refuse to play defense, but they love playing offense.
Yes.
Love it. And the fact that he was able to shut a team like that down completely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mark Scheifele and what's Kyle Connor need no introduction. Kyle Connor, the one that always scores like 50.
Yes.
And just no one talks about it.
Listen, I'll talk about it. He's on my fantasy team.
He should be. It's impressive stuff that Tristan Jarry was able to bounce back from. Like I said, Minnesota wasn't that great. He got an important win. Yeah, and that's good for the momentum, and it's good to collect wins any way possible, but he didn't look good. The fact he was able to bounce back from that and stop 32 shots, I think it was, against a very, very highly offensive team, that's impressive, and it's a step in the right direction. Good to get the night off in Chicago, and now we'll see how he can perform back at home against Calgary, another team that likes their offense. It was DeSmith against them last time, right? In Calgary?
I do not remember.
I believe it was, but
yeah.
It's up to Jarry to continue holding down the fort and prove and get back to his original pace. That's kind of what this whole last few weeks have been about. It's getting back to the pace they were at in the first 5 games. The scoring 6 goals every night if you need to, the pretty much shutting down goalies or offenses defensively and getting the big saves when you need them. And Jarry did that in Winnipeg. He's got to continue that now.
Yeah, with Tristan Jarry, it's not just that he was off his game. He was bad. He was straight up bad. He was in the bottom 10 in the NHL in goals saved above expected. But and then also even on Thursday, I mean, the Penguins won in spite of his performance. He did not look good, and you mentioned that plenty. But he stole the show on Saturday, and that's what you want to see from Tristan Jarry. Now it's one game. That's why the question of is Tristan Jarry back? I don't think we can answer that as of right now. I think you have to wait and see a couple more games, a little bit more sample size, but 32 saves on 32 shots, first shutout of the season, 2.57 goals saved above expected against the Winnipeg Jets. That's certainly something to build off of. It was an impressive victory for Tristan Jarry, and if he can continue that pace, listen, you said Tuesday. We'll talk about that in the next segment. Pens Flames on, Wednesday. That's going to be another heck of a matchup when it comes to head-to-head goalie versus goalie. So we'll see what he's able to do with that, but you certainly love to see it when what you saw on Saturday for Tristan Jarry. Last thing before we cut to break, I've never seen Mike Sullivan with any facial hair, but the coaching staff, whatever it takes to galvanize this unit, they will do it. They made the bet with the players. Of course, it is Movember. A lot of the Penguins players, I believe there's 8 or 9 of them rocking the mustaches in the month of November. The coaching staff made a bet with the team that if the Penguins won all 3 games on the road trip, they would grow out a mustache until Christmas. And then they upped the bet because Chicago, Madhouse on Madison, we know how it goes. They said, if you win in Chicago for Gino's 1000th, we'll hold it till the Winter Classic so the entire world can see. Well, the Penguins, as we've talked about for the past 35 minutes, have not lost and did not lose on that road trip. So Mike Sullivan, Mike Vellucci, and Todd Reardon are going to be rocking the stashes, man. It's going to be very interesting because, like we said, 7 years. 7, like literally, not even a playoff mustache. Not even, I said, this man has not had a 5 o'clock shadow in front of the media. Who knows? Like, I feel like somehow we're just going to see Wednesday at that game. It's just going to come out of nowhere. Sullivan's going to have a big bushy mustache.
I'm a little worried about it, honestly. So the only time I can think that maybe he had some facial hair was during those initial Zoom interviews coming out of the pandemic, because everyone was kind of letting themselves go a little bit during the pandemic, but I just don't remember his specifically. So, I mean, Todd Reardon, I think, already had a mustache this year, so his coming back is going to be no big deal. No big thing.
He did in training camp because we made a joke about his goatee.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah, we did. Brilliant. So that's fine. No big thing. And Mike Vellucci, another one I just never seen with facial hair, although I don't see Mike Vellucci that often. But
Can Ty Hennis grow facial hair?
Probably better than me.
Well, yeah, that doesn't take much.
That's not saying much. But my
1-year-old nephew can grow better facial hair than you, bub.
Yeah, probably. But Mike Sullivan, that's going to be it's going to be an interesting one. Is he just full man where, like you said, we're just going to see him on
Wednesday,
and it's just going to be there? Because if it's just there on Wednesday, he's going to have Lanny McDonald face by the time the Classic rolls around.
Which would be great. Put him in one of those old coats, little toque action, and the big stash.
Where's my toque? I bought one. They were really nice, actually. Oh, it's over there. Anyway, it's too far away, but yeah.
The vibes are immaculate for the Pittsburgh Penguins right now. 3-game winning streak, like we said, 5-1-1 in their past 7 games. Tough stretch there. Doesn't get any easier in the next 3 games. 2 of those teams, well, one of them is struggling in the Calgary Flames. We will preview that matchup right after this break. Welcome back to the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast, brought to you as always by InsideThePenguins.com. I'm Nick Brlansky, along with Nick Horwat. We have the second matchup of the year between the Pens and Flames coming up on Thanksgiving. Horwat, do you partake in Thanksgiving? It is the biggest drinking holiday of the year.
Oh, I was like, what the hell is Thanksgiving? Clearly not.
Clearly
I get
not.
it now. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I've been tanked on Thanksgiving, but nothing's more fun, but also extremely dangerous to your wallet than having someone drive you out to Black Friday shopping night of Thanksgiving.
Yeah, which I don't think they're doing that anymore.
Thank God. That was honestly really dumb. I'm you know this. I'm very much don't celebrate Christmas until after Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. After my birthday, and I appreciate that.
Of course.
You wait until my birthday's done, as a good co-host would.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now you're making me try to remember when your birthday is. Oh boy.
We won't get into that.
But yeah, since I'm very much a fan of that, thank God they're stopping Black Friday shopping Thursday night. As fun as it could be, and I do enjoy Black Friday shopping, and I'm as jolly as they come, just at the proper time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good move. But yeah, no, Thanksgiving, no, I have not. I've maybe incidentally partaken before.
Well, any of the listeners from my hometown, Johnstown, it's a very big holiday in Johnstown. Very, very much enjoyed and very widely celebrated. So everybody, please drink responsibly and do not drink and drive. Make sure you have a ride prepared. But let's talk about the Thanksgiving matchup between the Pens and the Flames. Penguins usually play a home game on the night before Thanksgiving. The entire NHL is usually in action during that night as well. Just a weird, random schedule thing where the NHL loves the night before Thanksgiving because they don't play any games on actual Thanksgiving. But the Pittsburgh Penguins take on the Calgary Flames. Second matchup of the season. In the first one, the Penguins lost 4-1 in Calgary. That was the early portion of that 7-game losing streak. Nazem Kadri scored 2 goals in that game. Jonathan Huberdeau scored his first as a Calgary Flame. And Jake Markstrom, as he tends to do, just absolutely shut the doors on the Pittsburgh Penguins, making 32 saves on 33 shots. The Pittsburgh Penguins have now lost 3 straight games to the Calgary Flames. Their last win was on December 17th of 2019 in a 4-1 victory. 2-point game for 4 Penguins in that one. Malkin, Rust, Letang, and even Johnny Marino in his rookie year had multiple points in that one. But like I said, the big thing is going to be, can the Penguins beat Jacob Markstrom? Because he is absolutely killer against us. In his career, 6-3 record, 1.99 goals allowed average, 941 save percentage, and 1 shutout. So if it's Jacob Markstrom, which I would imagine it would be, what do you think about this matchup for the Pittsburgh Penguins?
Yikes, brother.
Yikes,
No,
brother.
Overall, yeah, yikes, brother. But I think with the right kind of momentum that we're carrying, anything's possible.
Mhm.
The Flames how are the Flames doing otherwise? We know Jacob
They've been
Markstrom's
struggling.
Yeah, that's what I thought because, that was Huberdeau's first goal as a Flame against the Penguins. I don't know how good he's done since because there's been a lot of talk of him not being great.
He's been in and out of the lineup. I know he was dealing with an injury at one point.
He has, in 14 games, 2 goals and 6 assists.
Yeah.
Which is not ideal. Nazem Kadri, though, is Nazem Kadri. 8 goals, 7 assists for 15 points. Ooh, boy, that's pretty good. Yeah, the Flames are a weird team this year. 8-7-2. They don't seem to be blowing teams out, but they also don't seem to be losing by much. I'd say anything's possible, despite it being Markstrom or not. Maybe you get Dan Vladar. Maybe. Maybe they look at the way the Pens played against them last time and give them the backup goalie treatment. That's highly unlikely, but
yeah.
I like the idea of the Penguins carrying the momentum that they've gained into this one.
And usually the Penguins, over the last couple of seasons, if you remember, a lot of these games on Thanksgiving have been against the Vancouver Canucks, and they have been very, very interesting games. Like, they're not boring games in the least. You went to the one that Brandon Tanev, I believe, became the hero. It was Tanev versus Tanev, and he scored a big goal where the Penguins scored, I believe, 4 goals in the third period.
That wild game.
Yeah, that was on Thanksgiving, and the Penguins have won 3 straight on that holiday now. They last lost in 2017 to Vancouver, who they've played 3 times since 2017 on that same holiday. I wouldn't say same day, but the Pens are pretty good when it comes to the night before Thanksgiving. I don't remember when it was. I think 2016. They blew out the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think that was the Austin Matthews Maple Leafs rookie year. They've been pretty good on this day. So you know what? To get into the Pens prediction, I say they win it by a score of 4-2. I would say there'd be more goal scoring, but the Calgary Flames are what they are. They're a Daryl Sutter coach team with a goaltender that, if he's playing, is always good against the Penguins. So I think the Pens win 4-2, and I will go as far as to say Jake Gensel scores his 5th empty net goal of the season.
Hey, another empty netter for Jake. He'll get to 50 with no goalies, and it'll still count. Yeah. I'm fine with giving the Penguins a win too. I don't know about 4 goals.
Yeah,
just because Jacob Markstrom's numbers are that damn good. But it will be close, and especially if they've given the Penguins a win, but not a high-scoring game. How's a 2-1 game sound?
2-1 game sounds good to me. Now, let's also remember this is the night that the Penguins at home will be celebrating Evgeni Malkin. If you had him as an anytime goal scorer on Sunday, you were a winner. I would venture a guess that he might be an anytime goal scorer candidate for Wednesday's game as well.
Scored the last time they played.
He did. He was the only one that scored the last time they played.
Yeah, so I don't totally hate that one either.
Yeah. So with that, we are going to move over to our weekly Pens poll, and that's where we're going to finish this episode. We asked, which performance has surprised you the most this season? And you, our faithful listeners, our faithful Twitter followers, said Jason Zucker, and it's not even a damn question. 63% of voters said Jason Zucker has been the most surprising performance of the year for the Penguins. 17% go with Marcus Pettersson, 15% say P.O. Joseph, 5% say other, and the only one that really gave an answer was Jace. He said, biggest surprise to me is the first power play unit, because I've never seen it play this bad. Listen, I tried to go positive with it. There's always somebody that's going to go negative, and that's fair. Jace has followed along in the podcast all season long. Thank you for your response. But he's also correct in that statement. The first power play unit has been abysmal, and that is very shocking. But the rest of these answers, I went with Jason Zucker as well, because, 15 points in 17 games. I didn't expect that.
No, not at all. I think, that's what he's already 2 points away from tying what he had last year, 3 away from the season before. Yeah, he keeps this pace up, he's going to surpass his last 2 seasons combined.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, you keep him with Evgeni Malkin, they can do that pretty easily. So I'd say, yeah, that's definitely the most surprising, and also just the best surprise that we've had. We discussed the drawbacks of this power play unit. Oh boy. Yeah, that's not good. We thought maybe they were catching some fire, scoring twice in Minnesota. No. bad.
I don't know how this would work, and I haven't thought about this before, so I don't know. I have to look at it and the way they play. But Jason Zucker's aggressive. He's a pain in the ass. He's a thorn in people's side. Maybe try him at the net front on the power play. Let Jake Gensel get out of the net front area. Put him where Brian Rust is. Maybe that changes something. I don't know. It's an idea. It's an idea. I don't know if it would work. I don't know if his style would mesh there. I don't know if he'd be good there. It's an idea.
It's an idea. I think it's an interesting one, especially considering you'd have to do a little shuffling of deck chairs.
Yeah.
But I mean, anything that gets it going, I'll take. Give it all a chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Put some of the defenders out there. I don't know. Do anything. Try the 5 forward stat that Chicago does.
Oh, no. Don't do that.
No, not that. Okay.
No.
We give up too many odd man rushes. It's fine.
Yeah. They're already, I was about to say, they're already giving up too many odd man rushes. But hey, listen, the one wrinkle that they threw in last week seemed to help a little bit. Allow Kris Letang, or tell Kris Letang that you must shoot the puck every time. From time to time, you gotta get a shot on net. So it's looked better since he started doing that. But we're gonna take we're not gonna take a break. Yeah, we will take a break until Thursday. We will have an episode for you guys on Thanksgiving. We'll be joined by our good friend of the show, Brian Metzer of the Penguins Radio Network. So keep an eye out for that. If you don't want to listen to it Thursday, hey, maybe listen to it Friday when you're Black Friday shopping. Put in an AirPod, try to ignore all the screaming people, and make sure you're safe and have a really happy holiday. We will see you guys on Thursday with Metzer. Have a great week, Pens fans.